What if I told you the 1980s gave birth to the most twisted thrillers ever filmed? These movies didn't just push boundaries, they obliterated them. They made audiences vomit. They got banned in countries. They sparked moral panics. Directors dared to show sex violence and psychological horror in ways no one had tried before. Forget your safe blockbusters. Here are 13 controversial 80s thrillers that crossed every line imaginable. You will not unsee these. Number 13, Christine, 1983. A killer car sounds ridiculous, right? Wrong. John Carpenter took Stephen King's novel about a possessed Plymouth Fury and created something deeply unsettling. Christine isn't just about a murderous vehicle, it's about toxic obsession consuming a teenage boy. The car rebuilds itself after being smashed to pieces. That scene where crushed metal slowly pops back into shape still haunts mechanics today. The controversy came from the film's brutal deaths. One character gets run down, then reversed over, then run down again. Another burns alive, trapped inside a garage. But the real boundary pusher was the film's message about masculinity. The protagonist, Arnie, changes from a nerdy outcast into a leather jacket-wearing monster. His love for Christine replaces all human connection. Critics called it misogynistic for how the car steals him from his girlfriend. Audiences didn't know how to react. A horror movie with no ghost, no demon, no slasher, just a soulless machine. And the scariest part? Christine's license plate says CQB 241. That is a real plate. Stephen King saw it on a parked car and bought the vehicle on the spot. The car now sits in a museum. Visitors say the radio turns on by itself. Number 12, Still of the Night, 1982. Robert Benton directed this psychological thriller that broke one major rule. No violence on screen, no gore, no jump scares. Instead, Still of the Night relies entirely on atmosphere and dread. Roy Scheider plays a psychiatrist whose patient gets murdered. Meryl Streep plays the mysterious woman connected to the crime. The controversy. Audiences walked out demanding refunds. They expected a slasher. They got 90 minutes of conversation and slow zooms. But here is what made this film truly boundary-pushing. It asked viewers to use their brains. One long take follows Scheider through a museum. No dialogue for 3 minutes, just his growing paranoia. The film also violated Hollywood's sexual politics of the era. Streep's character manipulates every man she meets. She lies without remorse. She never gets punished for it. Feminist critics praised this complexity. Mainstream audiences hated it. The most controversial scene happens in a dark parking garage. A killer stalks Streep, but you never see the weapon, never see the attack, only her terrified face and a shadow. Then nothing. The scene ends. No resolution. That ambiguity drove 1982 crowds insane. They wanted clear villains and heroic saves. Still of the Night refused both. Today, it is a forgotten masterpiece of suspense, but in its time, it was the most boring boundary ever pushed. Number 11, House of Games, 1987. David Mamet wrote and directed this con artist thriller that blurred reality and performance. A female psychiatrist gets drawn into a world of petty criminals and elaborate scams. But here is the twist. The psychiatrist is not innocent. She is not a victim. By the end, you realize she may have been the predator all along. House of Games pushed boundaries by erasing traditional hero-villain roles completely. Every character lies. Every scene might be a con within a con. The most controversial moment is a gunshot. A character shoots another point blank in the chest. No blood squib. No dramatic fall. Just a body dropping. Mamet said violence in real life looks boring. Audiences hated that. They wanted stylized action. Instead, they got a scene where a woman casually murders someone, then continues talking. The film also broke rules about gender. The female lead outsmarts every man, including a career criminal played by Joe Mantegna. She sleeps with him as part of her scheme. She then steals his money and walks away smiling. No moral comeuppance. No guilt. Critics called it nihilistic. Others called it brutally honest. The film's final shot shows her back at her office seeing a new patient. The patient is another criminal. The cycle continues forever. House of Games says there is no escape from manipulation. That message in a glossy 1987 thriller was radioactive. Number 10, To Live and Die in L.A., 1985. William Friedkin, the director of The Exorcist, made this nihilistic crime masterpiece. To Live and Die in LA follows a Secret Service agent obsessed with catching a counterfeiter. The boundary pushed happens at the 1 hour mark. The main character dies, not at the end, not dramatically. He gets shot in the face during a routine chase. Then the movie continues with a different protagonist. In 1985, this was unthinkable. Audiences had no idea who to root for anymore. The film also featured a car chase going the wrong way on a Los Angeles freeway. No CGI, no green screen, real stunt drivers weaving through real traffic at real speeds. Several crashes were accidents that Friedkin kept in the final cut. The controversy extended to sexual content. A lengthy scene in a strip club shows graphic nudity. An extended sequence involves a character having sex with his informant for information. But the real boundary was moral. No one wins. The counterfeiters get away. The good guys break every law. The final shot reveals the protagonist's partner already planning his next illegal operation. Friedkin said he wanted to show that law enforcement and criminals are identical. The MPAA gave it an R rating only after 7 cuts. The uncut version remains a time bomb of 80s cynicism. Number 9, The Hitcher, 1986. A young man picks up a hitchhiker on a desert highway. The hitchhiker, played by Rutger Hauer, is pure evil. He does not want money or the car. He wants psychological torture. The Hitcher pushed boundaries by removing all motive from its villain. John Ryder, the antagonist, has no backstory, no trauma, no reason for his violence. He simply enjoys destroying lives. That terrified 1986 audiences. They needed explanation. They got nothing. The film's most controversial scene involves a police officer handcuffed between 2 trucks. Ryder forces the protagonist to watch as the trucks drive apart. You do not see the dismemberment. You hear it. Then you see the handcuffs with empty sleeves. The MPAA demanded cuts, but the implication remained. Another scene shows a waitress shot through a window. Her body slides down the glass, leaving a thick red smear. Critics called it exploitative. Defenders called it art. The real boundary was the ending. The protagonist finally kills Ryder, but the final shot shows another hitchhiker on another road. Same jacket, same smile. Evil is eternal. No closure, no lesson, just the horror that anyone can become a victim anywhere. Roger Ebert gave it 0 stars. He called it a geek show. That condemnation only made it more famous. The Hitcher remains banned in several countries for its relentless, cruel atmosphere. Number 8, Dead Ringers, 1988. David Cronenberg directed this story of twin gynecologists who share everything: women, drugs, a medical practice. Then they descend into madness together. Dead Ringers pushed boundaries by making its protagonists both repulsive and sympathetic. Jeremy Irons plays both twins. He acts against himself in scenes that feel like genuine conversation. The controversy exploded from one prop. The twins design gynecological instruments for mutant women. These tools look like torture devices, chrome-plated insectoid claws, scissors that cut nothing healthy. The film shows these instruments in graphic detail. Worse, it shows a woman strapped to a table while the twins argue over which tool to use. Feminist groups protested outside theaters. Cronenberg responded that the film was about his own fear of women's bodies. That explanation did not calm anyone. The most disturbing scene involves the twins injecting each other with tranquilizers so they can operate on a patient together. One twin holds a retractor while the other cuts. They are both high, they are both crying. The patient is awake. You see her eyes. No anesthesia because the twins forgot. Real medical advisors walked off the set. The final sequence shows the surviving twin cradling his brother's corpse. He whispers, "We are just 2 little mice who fell into a bowl of cream." Then he cuts open his own stomach. Dead Ringers was banned in Ontario, Canada for 6 months. It still makes medical students faint. And number 7, Body Double, 1984. Brian De Palma made this erotic thriller about a voyeuristic actor who witnesses a murder. But Body Double is really about you, the audience. You are the pervert. The film opens with a character in a coffin simulating a vampire movie. That is literal. Then it moves to a telescopic view of a woman dancing in her apartment. The camera lingers on her body for 5 uninterrupted minutes. In 1984, this was softcore pornography in a mainstream theater. The controversy came from De Palma's shamelessness. He stole the plot from Hitchcock's Rear Window but added graphic sex and a drill murder. A power drill through a woman's hand, then through her chest. The MPAA demanded 23 cuts. De Palma released an unrated version anyway. That version includes a scene where the protagonist masturbates while watching the dancing woman. No shadows, no suggestion, full action. Feminist critics destroyed the film, calling it misogynistic garbage. Male critics called it brilliant satire. The truth lies somewhere in between. Body Double uses the male gaze to critique the male gaze. But does that justify the gaze itself? The final twist reveals the woman knew she was being watched. She performed for the telescope. That revelation makes every audience member complicit. You watched her. You enjoyed it. Then the film calls you a creep. That double punch made Body Double the most controversial thriller of 1984. It lost money but gained immortality. Number 6, Blowout, 1981. Brian De Palma again. This time he tackled political assassination. John Travolta plays a sound recordist who accidentally captures a car crash that killed a presidential candidate. Blowout pushed boundaries by making its hero utterly useless. He spends 2 hours gathering evidence. Every piece of proof gets destroyed. Every witness gets murdered. The most controversial scene happens at the end. Travolta rescues a woman from drowning. He gives her mouth to mouth. She lives. Then a police officer shoots her by mistake. She dies in his arms. Roll credits. No villain caught. No justice served. Audiences in 1981 stormed out of theaters. They demanded happy endings. De Palma gave them a corpse. The film also featured a graphic strangulation sequence. A serial killer known as the Liberty Bell Strangler attacks women with a noose. The camera stays on the victim's face for 45 seconds as she chokes. Realistic purple discoloration, realistic spit bubbles, realistic death sounds recorded from actual drowning victims. The MPAA almost gave Blowout an X rating. De Palma refused to cut. He said the movie is about how America consumes death for entertainment. Cutting the violence would ruin the point. Today, Blowout is a Criterion Collection classic. But in 1981, it was a scandal that ended Travolta's leading man career for 5 years. Number 5, Angel Heart, 1987. Alan Parker directed this neo-noir horror film about a private detective hunting a missing singer. The detective is Mickey Rourke. The singer is Robert De Niro. But nothing is real. Angel Heart pushed boundaries by blending literal Satanism with psychological breakdown. The most controversial scene features a voodoo ritual in a New Orleans apartment. A chicken gets its head torn off, blood sprays on the walls, then a woman has sex with a goat. You see the goat, you see the woman. The MPAA demanded removal. Parker submitted a version with the goat obscured. The MPAA still said no, so Parker released it unrated. But the real boundary came at the end. Rourke discovers he is the killer he has been hunting. Worse, he is the son of Satan. A deal made before his birth doomed his soul forever. The final shot shows Rourke's face melting away. Then his eyes pop out, then his skull crumbles. That 15-second effect used no CGI. Only practical latex and a heat gun. Lisa Bonet, the actress from The Cosby Show, plays the voodoo priestess's daughter. Her explicit sex scene with Rourke destroyed her television career. Bill Cosby personally called her to express disappointment. Bonet never returned to the show. Angel Heart asks a terrifying question. What if your entire life is just a contract signed by someone else? That existential horror plus literal goat sex made this film banned in 3 countries. Number 4, Fatal Attraction, 1987. You think you know this movie. A married man has a weekend affair. The woman stalks his family, but the original ending changed everything. Fatal Attraction. First cut had Glenn Close's character kill herself and frame Michael Douglas for murder. Test audiences hated it. They wanted violence. So director Adrian Lyne reshot. The new ending shows Close rising from a bathtub one last time. She attacks Douglas's wife with a kitchen knife. Douglas drowns her in the sink. Then he shoots her. Then she twitches back to life before dying for real. That ending made Fatal Attraction a phenomenon. But the real controversy was the film's message. Glenn Close's Alex Forrest is not a monster. She is a lonely woman who tried to kill herself before the affair. She just wants someone to love her. The film cannot decide if she is villain or victim. That ambiguity drove 1987 audiences insane. They needed a clear bad guy. Instead, they got a character who says, "I will not be ignored, Dan." That line became a feminist rallying cry. The film also pushed boundaries with its infamous bunny boiling scene. A pet rabbit cooks in a pot. No blood shown, just fur and steam. The MPAA almost gave an X rating for that 10-second shot. Close said she received death threats from men who saw themselves as Dan. Women sent her letters thanking her for showing their pain. Fatal Attraction is not a thriller. It is a Rorschach test for who you fear most. Number 3, Videodrome, 1983. David Cronenberg's masterpiece of media horror. A cable programmer finds a broadcast showing brutal torture with no plot. Then his television develops a fleshy tumor. Then his stomach opens into a vagina-like slit. Videodrome pushed every boundary simultaneously. The film features a character who records his own snuff film, another character who mutilates her breast with a scalpel for a television show. The most controversial sequence shows a man inserting a VHS tape into a wound on his torso. The tape plays inside his body. His internal organs become a cinema screen. The MPAA demanded 18 cuts. Cronenberg refused. He released it unrated. The film's philosophy was even more disturbing than its images. Videodrome argues that television is changing human biology. We are growing new organs to process media. Those organs are cancerous. The only cure is death. Audiences walked out confused and angry. Critics called it disgusting, misogynistic garbage. Others saw prophecy. Today we live in Videodrome. Your phone is the cancerous organ. The final scene shows the protagonist shooting himself in the head. He whispers, "Long live the new flesh." Then his body melts, revealing a pulsing video screen behind his skull. That image was banned on British television until 1999. Videodrome is not entertainment. It is a warning that arrived 40 years too early. Number 2, Blue Velvet, 1986. David Lynch directed this suburban nightmare. A college student finds a severed ear in a field. He investigates. He discovers a world of sadomasochistic sex and drug abuse beneath manicured lawns. Blue Velvet pushed boundaries by making its villain charismatic. Dennis Hopper plays Frank Booth. Frank inhales a gas mask full of amyl nitrite before beating a woman. He screams, "Baby wants to fuck," while raping her. He forces the hero to watch. Then Frank cries. That emotional whiplash broke 1986 audiences. The MPAA demanded cuts to the rape scene. Lynch removed 10 seconds. The film still received an X rating in some theaters. Lynch refused to change anything else. The most controversial shot comes from Isabella Rossellini. Her character Dorothy walks naked into the night after being brutalized. She is bleeding. Her face is swollen. She whispers the hero's name like a prayer. That image became a feminist test case. Was Lynch exploiting Rossellini or exposing male violence? Rossellini said the film saved her career. Others called it pornography. The film also features a scene where a robin eats a beetle. That insect is real. The robin is mechanical. The beetle's death took 17 takes. PETA protested. Blue Velvet ends with a friendly wave and a false smile. The darkness remains underground. Lynch said the film is about finding evil in your own backyard. What made it controversial was that no one wanted to look. Number 1, Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, 1986. This is the most controversial thriller of the 1980s. It is not even close. John McNaughton directed this ultra-low-budget film about real-life killer Henry Lee Lucas. No music, no style, no moral. Henry shows murder as boring. A man strangles his mother. Another man beats a family to death with a crowbar. The camera does not look away. The most disturbing scene uses a home video camera. Henry and his roommate film themselves murdering a family. They watch the tape laughing. Then they rewind. Then they watch it again. The audience watches them watching. That triple layer of violence broke everything. The MPAA gave it an X rating. No changes could remove the X. The film was banned in 5 countries. The United Kingdom finally allowed a release in 2003 with 7 minutes cut. The uncut version shows a child's murder. Not implied, not off-screen, full violence. McNaughton said he wanted to show how serial killers actually behave. No style, no glamour, just boredom and cruelty. The final scene shows Henry putting his suitcase in a car. The suitcase leaks blood. A state trooper waves him through. Henry drives away smiling. He will kill again. That ending made audiences scream at the screen. They demanded justice. They got nothing. Roger Ebert called it the most depressing film he had ever seen. Gene Siskel walked out. Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer is not a movie. It is a document from hell. No boundary survived its release. None have grown back since. These 13 films broke brains and burned screens. They asked sick questions and refused happy answers. The 80s never recovered. Neither will you. Which one scarred you the worst? Comment below. Subscribe for more forbidden cinema. And remember, the new flesh is always watching.